Lummi Island, a short story series of the Ostium Network. Written by Alex C. Telander. Read by Justy G. Part 1. Cold Tinted Windows. Nine. A few moments later, Michael was sitting down in one of the visitors' chairs sipping his scalding coffee. He hadn't taken any sugar. He certainly did like it black and strong. It was at that point a question popped into my head as to whether Michael was gay. It was none of my business to inquire, but I couldn't help wondering if I would find out in time. His mug was just text and read, "If truth is beauty, how come no one has their hair done in the library?" Okay. Now I felt like an asshole. That's where the unhindered thought about Michael's sexual preference had come from. A foolish stereotype. Thank you once again, brain, for proving you can be a complete and utter idiot sometimes. Sorry, what was that? I asked, realizing I was being spoken to and not gathering a single word. I was asking if the coffee was okay. Oh, sorry. Let me see. I stirred it aplenty already, drew out the spoon and sucked it clean, and then took a sip. It was perfect. Heaven. Manna from the gods. This is exquisite. Michael's jovial face broke into a wide smile. Glad to hear it. It's my particular favorite blend. Pete's Big Bang. Strong, but not too strong. Hints of smoke and chocolate. I order it through Amazon. That stopped me like a child's scream. Amazon? I asked in amazement. They deliver here? Of course, he said, still beaming. Well, not their specific couriers, but it comes with a daily shipment of mail on the Chief every morning. By Chief, I knew he meant the ferry I'd just come in on. Well, thank you, Amazon, I guess, I said. Yes, thank you, Amazon, so I don't have to get off my tush and cross the channel to Bellingham to get myself some quality coffee. This way it comes to me. Isn't there any decent coffee on the island? Well, there is coffee on the island, but calling it decent is a bit of a stretch in my opinion. The Islander has instant coffee and a few bags of beans that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot French press. Well, what about the Willow's Inn? Ah, that place. I suppose if you were willing to spend $10 on a tiny espresso that would be gone in a couple sips, it might taste okay. Oh, I said. For my online research, the Willow's Inn had seemed like a pretty flashy place. I had a feeling it would be expensive, but not that pricey. The Beach Store Cafe has coffee also, but nothing to write home about. So as you can see, our choices are fairly limited. Indeed, I said. Well, now I know where to focus when acquiring my black market goods. That earned a hearty laugh, which let me enjoy more of my coffee and gave me a chance to settle in my new seat in my new office and think about my new job for a moment. I was really happy. So, let's get down to some business then, Michael said. I snapped back into focus. What did you think of the place? My response after some silence was, I haven't really had the time. Come on now, I saw your resume, remember? You've probably been in more bookstores than almost any person on the planet. What did you think? Cramped? Too many books? You got me. No to the former, and there's no such thing as the latter. I can tell right away this isn't your usual, ordinary library, but Lummi Island isn't big. But too many residents think they live in a thriving metropolis here, he said. Okay, and that's good to know, I suppose. But I could tell there's a method to the madness here. There's a system, probably a very convoluted one. But once I break it down, it'll be fine. Is this all you? I raised my arms, encompassing the entire building. Is what all... Oh no, I'm but a humble building owner doing his best to encourage reading on this book-starved island. No, this mind-boggling brainchild was the impressive result of one Jane Harcourt. This building has been owned by my family for a large number of decades that we won't be too specific about. Jane was the librarian here for over 30 years, though still younger than me. This place was a labor of love for her, as she refined and organized in her own specific way. I learned early on to just let her do her thing and trust in her abilities, and I was never wrong in that decision. She kept asking for more books and would give me weekly lists. I accommodated and approved when and how I could. Once again, thank you, Amazon, and thank you also the internet at large, where I can get access to so many choices when purchasing books. At times, it's just mind-boggling. My family has been on this island since the year 1. And by that I mean not too long after the Point Roberts Treaty and very shortly after Lummi Island became independent from the Lummi Nation. My family took big advantage of it, buying up what land they could and building. They've done very well since. I'm one of 5 brothers. 2 have passed, while the 3 of us remain hale and healthy. I never wanted much of all that real estate headache. I have a nice-sized home where you'll be staying high up on the top floor, and this aging building. I want nothing else to do with the rest of the family business. I almost get the sense you're not on board with the family prerogative, if you don't mind me asking, I said. You're a very astute woman, Kate. I think we're going to get along just fine. Much like the fraught history of this island, my family's history is a somewhat dark and sordid one that began, in my opinion, by nefarious and questionable means. The surviving members continue to do business in this way. As soon as I had the chance to sever and separate myself from all that, I did. And that's all I want to say about digging up my family's dishonest heritage. I'm sorry for prying. No, my dear, Michael said. I opened up that can of worms to begin with. You simply chose to join me with a spoon and dig a little deeper. I'm just not ready to dredge all that up just yet. Maybe when we get to know each other better and I've got some potent spirits running through my veins. But bringing it back to Ms. Harcourt. She was a godsend and did what needed to be done here. Helped those who needed it and was pretty popular with those willing to crack open the covers of a book. He took a deep drink of his coffee. She sounds wonderful, I said. What happened? He took a deep breath and then let it out slowly. 6 weeks ago, she just up and disappeared. At first I thought she might be sick. I paid a visit to her house and found all her things there, fresh food and milk and eggs in the fridge. It all appeared undisturbed. A closet and dresser full of clothes, keys, cell phone, and money on the kitchen counter. I thought she might have taken a surprise trip somewhere, an out-of-the-blue vacation, but you wouldn't leave those things behind. So we waited, and waited, and waited. I tried running things myself here, but I had no idea where everything was. The first person to come in and ask me if I had a certain book, I gave them a deer-in-the-headlights look and apologized. I closed and locked the door that day, and the place hasn't been open since. That is incredibly sad, I said. You've still heard nothing from her? Michael shook his head. Not a peep. The family has visited a number of times. They haven't heard from her either. It'd be Lummi's biggest mystery if they weren't keeping quiet about it. You mean the family? I asked. Oh, yes, they would rather no one find out, until they know more. Definitively, no. I'm talking about the island at large. Tourism funds the survival on this island. But something else also does. Silence. Anything questionable pertaining to the law or the way things should be are intentionally kept under the radar. We have no form of law enforcement on the island, no police, which is exactly how everyone wants it. The closest thing we have to a person in power is Rick, who'll hit 100 next year and spends his time at the ferry dock watching people come and go. I'd say there's at least one more person who seems to care. Oh, really, my dear, he said. Perhaps you know more than I do. And who might that be? A wonderful gentleman by the name of Michael Fortner, I replied. The room erupted in a warm, loud laugh that echoed off the walls. I swear it physically brightened the room. I am honored that you would consider me a good Samaritan, if you will. I do what I can to help out. But it is the rest of the people who do what they can to keep to themselves at all costs. They act like Lummi is a borough of New York, where the hoi polloi rub shoulders with the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, where it's at, be-all and end-all, and each of them is at the very center of it. But they can't all be at the center of it all, I said. Oh, can't they? He responded. These people stretch and break the rules of physics. They think sociology is whatever they decide it to be. They decide what's the height of fashion and what everyone should be talking about, even though every family has different ideas of this. You know, I sort of interrupted, I think I know what you mean. I managed to get a ride with a guy named Steven in his Tesla. It was very interesting and disturbing. You got a ride from Stephen Howard? Michael asked in awe. Or was that shock? I guess that could be his name. Big guy, big beard, thinks he's royalty. Michael snapped his fingers, pointing the index at me. That's him to a T. Spot on. He barely said a word to me on the ride. Actually said he didn't want to talk, was outright rude about it. Don't feel bad, my dear. He's rude to everyone, even his own family. Over the years, I've developed a sort of saying that I keep completely to myself. You will actually be the first human being I've ever told. Why, thank you, I said. I was all ears. If you survived a first meeting with the venerable Stephen Howard, you deserve to hear this. I forgot which family it was, but while driving around the island one day, I saw a company doing work on their windows. Curiosity got the better of me, and I could see all the fancy cars were gone, so it was just the window company at home. They had to have come over from the mainland, specially imported, so I sidled up to the man in charge and inquired what was going on. He was a chatty fellow and soon gave up that the windows were being tinted. When I asked if this was to block out the sun, he laughed and said no, it was so that none of the nosy neighbors or anyone driving by could look in. But they were using a special kind of film over the windows so that those on the inside could look out at everything going on, as if the window were plain glass. It couldn't have been cheap. Sounds a lot like an interrogation room with a one-way mirror, I said. You got it, exactly. That interesting story stuck with me, and since then, that's how I see the people of Lummi, especially the rich ones, which is most of them. They sit in their houses, behind cold, tinted windows, wanting nothing to do with anyone, but at the same time having to watch and know everything that's going on at all times, whether it concerns them or not. Believe you me, it never does. Cold, tinted windows. I savored the words, feeling them in my mouth. They were bitter. For the first time, I started to wonder if I'd made the right decision in taking the job and coming to Lummi Island. I suppose gossip is its own secret language here, I asked. You wouldn't be wrong, my dear, you wouldn't be wrong. But enough about the illuminating clientele of Lummi. Let's refill our coffees and I'll show you a few spots in the library. With fresh steaming mugs of Java, Michael led me to a hidden, narrow staircase that led upstairs to a small, cramped attic where there were more stacks of books, about 3 feet high all along one wall. One side had a window looking out at the road. I was immediately drawn to it. The view of the ferry dock, Lummi Bay, and the mainland laid out like a perfect toy set. It was breathtaking. Quite a sight, isn't it? I must admit I do come up here sometimes to admire it all, Michael said. Did Miss Harcourt do the same? Jane? No, she always kept herself too busy, or at least she said she did. She was never one to waste time taking in the view. Those were her words, not mine. There were 3 chairs in the room arranged in a rough circle. They looked hard and uncomfortable. This is where people can come to read and look at books if they so wish. Has anyone ever done that? I asked. I've seen bicycle seats more comfortable looking than these chairs. That laugh again, more booming and echoing in this bigger room. I miss it. I really miss him.